Welcome back, darlings, to the podcast Life Looks Different Now. I'm your host, Slandy Noel. In this podcast, we focus on reading one chapter from the Bible every week, doing our best to decipher the Word of God, learning its rules, its laws, its principles, and apply them to our daily lives. Last week, we read from Genesis chapter 26. And from reading Genesis chapter 26, we learned that there was a famine in the land of Canaan where Isaac resided. And we learned that God went to Isaac and told him not to move, to stay in that land, because that land has been promised to his father, Abraham. And all of his descendants will be blessed and will conquer these lands. And Isaac listened. He obeyed God and he stayed. And God blessed him tremendously and gave him even more wealth. We then learned that God renewed his covenant with Isaac. And lastly, we learned that one of Isaac's son, Esau, married two Hittite women who make Isaac and Rebekah, his wife's lives, miserable. Now, this week we are going to read from Genesis chapter 27. Let's see what lesson lies in Genesis chapter 27. Genesis chapter 27, I have a favor to ask. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel. You will be helping this channel to grow, and you'll also be giving others the opportunity to find a channel and to learn the Word of God, just like you and I are doing. So please share it with others. Thank you in advance for your support. Now let's get on to reading this fascinating chapter. Genesis chapter 27. Isaac blesses Jacob. When Isaac was old and his eyes were dim so that he could not see, he called Esau, his older son, and said to him, "My son." And he answered, "Here I am." He said, "Behold, I am old. I do not know the day of my death. Now then, take your weapons, your quiver, and your bow, and go out to the field and hunt game for me, and prepare for me delicious food, such as I love, and bring it to me, so that I may eat, that my soul may bless you before I die." Now Rebekah was listening when Isaac spoke to his son Esau. So when Esau went to the field to hunt for game and bring it, Rebekah said to her son Jacob, "I heard your father speak to your brother Esau. Bring me game and prepare for me delicious food, that I may eat it and bless you before the Lord before I die. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice as I command you. Go to the flock and bring me 2 good young goats, so that I may prepare from them delicious food for your father, such as he loves. And you shall bring it to your father to eat, so that he may bless you before he dies." But Jacob said to Rebekah his mother, "Behold, my brother Esau is a hairy man, and I am a smooth man. Perhaps my father will feel me, and I shall seem to be mocking him and bring a curse upon myself and not a blessing." His mother said to him, "Let your curse be on me, my son. Only obey my voice and go and bring them to me." So he went and took them and brought them to his mother. And his mother prepared delicious food, such as his father loved. Then Rebekah took the best garments of Esau, her older son, which were with her in the house, and put them on Jacob, her younger son. And the skins of the young goats she put on his hands and on the smooth part of his neck. And she put the delicious food in the bread, which she had prepared, into the hand of her son Jacob. So he went in to his father and said, "My father." And he said, "Here I am. Who are you, my son?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Now sit up and eat of my game, that your soul may bless me." But Isaac said to his son, "How is it that you have found it so quickly, my son?" He answered, "Because the Lord your God granted me success." Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Please come near, that I may feel you, my son, to know whether you are really my son Esau or not." So Jacob went near to Isaac his father, who felt him and said, "The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau." And he did not recognize him, because his hands were hairy like his brother Esau's hands. So he blessed him. He said, "Are you really my son Esau?" He answered, "I am." Then he said, "Bring it near to me, that I may eat of my son's game and bless you." So he brought it near to him, and he ate. And he brought him wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come near me and kiss me, my son." So he came near and kissed him. And Isaac smelled the smell of his garments and blessed him and said, "See, the smell of my son is as the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you of the dew of heaven and of the fatness of the earth and plenty of grain and wine. Let peoples serve you and nations bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may your mother's sons bow down to you. Cursed be everyone who curses you, and be blessed be everyone who bless you." As soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, when Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, Esau his brother came in from his hunting. He also prepared delicious food and brought it to his father. And he said to his father, "Let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that you may bless me." His father answered, "Who are you?" He answered, "I am your son, your firstborn, Esau." When Isaac trembled very violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? And I ate it all before you came, and I have blessed him. Yes, and he shall be blessed." As soon as Esau heard the words of his father, he cried out with an exceedingly great and bitter cry, and said to his father, "Bless me, even me also, oh my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully, and he has taken away your blessing." Esau said, "Is it not rightly named Jacob? For he has cheated me these 2 times. He took away my birthright, and behold, now he has taken away my blessing." Then he said, "Have you not reserved a blessing for me?" Isaac answered and said to Esau, "Behold, I have made him lord over you, and all his brothers I have given to him for you for servants. In his grain and wine I have sustained him. What then can I do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Have you but one blessing, my father? Bless me, even me also, oh my father." And Esau lifted up his voice and wept. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, "Behold, away from the fatness of the earth shall your dwelling be, and away from the dew of heaven on high. But your sword you shall live. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you shall break his yoke from your neck." Now Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing with which his father had blessed him. And Esau said to himself, "The days of mourning for my father are approaching. then I will kill my brother Jacob. But the words of Esau, her older son, were told to Rebekah. So she sent and called Jacob, her younger son, and said to him, behold, your brother Esau comforts himself about you by planning to kill you. Now therefore, my son, obey my voice. Arise and flee to Laban, my brother, in Haran, and stay with him a while until your brother's fury turns away, until your brother's anger turns away from you, and he forgets that what you have done to him. Then I will send and bring you from there. Why should I be wreath of you both in one day? Then Rebekah said to Isaac, I loathe my life because of the Hittite women. If Jacob marries one of the Hittite women like these, one of the women of the land, what good will my life be? Genesis chapter 27 is probably one of the most really fascinating story in Genesis. It's a story of trickery, of deceit. It's full of deceitfulness. This story is about Isaac, who is Abraham's son, the one who God made the covenant with, right? And we know that the covenant God made with Abraham got passed on to Isaac, and Isaac now it has to pass it on to the next son, the next generation. So the story is about Isaac, Rebekah, his wife, and their two sons, their twin boys, Esau, who is the elder, and Jacob, who is the younger son. We can really read in between the lines the dynamics of this relationship, of this family. It's very clear that no one in this family is to be trusted. None of them trust one another. Isaac didn't trust his wife Rebekah. Rebekah did not trust her husband Isaac, and the children did not trust one another. And we even learned back in Genesis chapter 25 when the twins were born. In fact, when Rebekah was pregnant with the twins, there was always, bitter fight between the twins, even in her womb, even as tiny infants in the womb. They were fighting one another. And God made it clear to Rebekah at that point there were two nations in her womb. They were not just brothers. There were two nations in her womb. And the elder will serve the younger. Now Jacob, when Rebekah went into labor and giving birth to the twins, Esau came out hairy. He came out first. But Jacob, the brother, held on to the heel of his twin brother Esau. He hung on there. He would not even allow Esau to be born on his own. And here we can sense the tension, this trickery in the chapter. We learned that Isaac was growing old. He was getting very up there in age. He was blind, and he feared that he was about to die, that his death was near. So he called his son Esau, who is his favorite son. Even the way the word is worded here, the word tells that he called his son, Esau, his firstborn. He, really demonstrating to us how these parents outwardly showing favoritism to a son caused such a very, strenuous relationship, not only for them, but also for the children, right? And the word tells us that Isaac called his son Esau, his favorite son, in secret. Because you see, he did not have a family meeting. He didn't call his wife Rebecca and Jacob and Esau and come together and said, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm getting up there in age. I'm afraid I'm gonna die any minute now. I want to make sure that I pass on the covenant to Esau. That's not what he did. He went in secret and to talk to his son Esau. And he said to his son, his favorite son, to go hunting, to prepare him a delicious meal, the way that he loves to eat. Because remember, Isaac chose Esau because Esau was a mighty man, a strong man, a man's man. You know, he's a hunter. He's this, and Isaac chose Esau because of the characters that he liked about Esau. Okay, so he naturally wanted to pass on this covenant, this wonderful blessing, this great blessing to Esau. And he said to him, go out there, go hunting, prepare me this delicious meal before I die so I can eat it, and I can bestow upon you a blessing, this wonderful blessing. Then we learned that Rebecca, Isaac's wife, overheard the conversation. Maybe she was eavesdropping, I don't know. Maybe she was in her tent and Isaac was in his own tent, but she overheard the conversation. But listen to this. She didn't go to her husband and said to Isaac, okay, husband, I trust your judgment. I love you. I've submitted my whole life to you. I know whatever decision you make is the right decision. However, do you think that maybe, just maybe, that Esau probably shouldn't be the one getting the blessing, that it should really get passed on to Jacob? Because you can see here, Esau has already demonstrated that he's a rebel, that he didn't care about following God's rules, because he went on to marry 2 Hittite women who made his parents' lives miserable. But you see, Rebecca did not go to her husband to have an honest conversation. So we beg to wonder, why not? This is your husband, and you know your husband. She waited for Esau to leave and go hunting. Then she called her son, Jacob. You see here the word her son. But listen, these twins belong to them both. There should have never been this outward favoritism where you're like, I'm going to favor this person over this person. I mean, I truly believe that parents do have favorites. I believe that parents do show favoritism to children. However, when you do it so outwardly, and where the children can see it, it is so obvious, it's undeniable, like you can't even deny it, and where they hit one another, that is problematic. That is an issue, and that is what we're seeing here. So Rebecca called her son, her favorite son, Jacob, and said to him, I just heard your father told your brother Esau to go and hunt and bring the game and prepare it and prepare me this delicious meal so he can bless him. Now, I want you to take that blessing. I want you to take Esau's place. Now, when I was young, when my father used to tell that story, he was like, oh, that woman was a deceitful woman. She conjured up this deceit, and steal Esau's blessing. And, and that's basically what happened here. She schemed with her son, Jacob, to take away her oldest son, Esau's blessing. And what makes the story even more interesting is that when the mother told Jacob about it, Jacob did not say, oh, mom, this is not good. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't try to steal something that doesn't belong to us. Instead, Jacob, the only concern Jacob had was getting caught. That was the only concern. Jacob responded and said, but remember, I am a smooth man. I'm not hairy like my brother. My brother's a hairy man. He's different than I am. If my father discovered that I am, he may see me as being deceitful and he may put a curse on me. My brother, you were already a deceitful person. Like, Jacob is a deceitful child. He's already a deceitful young person. First of all, remember in Genesis chapter 25, how his brother came home from the field working hard and he was making the stew and Jacob would not feed him. Jacob said, no. If you don't sell me your birthright, if you don't give it to me, you're not going to eat. You're going to die out of hunger. And Esau, of course, despised his birthright and decided to sell his birthright for a bowl of stew. But here we are here. Jacob is showing his true nature. He's like, I don't want to get caught. I mean, if this plan goes south, I'm going to get a curse and I don't want to get a curse. He didn't say, Mom, this is wrong. We shouldn't do this. And we can see after they scheme and conjure up this plan where the mother said, no, go into the field, go get me 2 young goats, and kill those 2 young goats. I'm going to prepare the meal just like your father likes, which tells us that Rebecca knows that her husband very well. She knows what he likes, exactly how he likes his stew to be made, right? And she's like, I'm going to prepare it for him just so, and I'm going to have you go in and give it to your father so you can get the blessing. And to follow through with her scheme, she took Esau's clothes that were with her and she put them on Jacob. And then she used the skin of the goats, because Esau was a very hairy man, and covered her, son Jacob's arms as well as his neck, just in case. You see how smart this woman was? She was a schemer. And she covered the son's neck as well, just in case. You never know if the son ended up being too close to the father. So the father, just in case the father were to touch these areas, that, he'll know for sure that it was Esau in the room with him. And she put everything on him. And when the food was all prepared, she put it in her son Jacob's hand and said to him, bring that meal to your father. Now remember, Isaac cannot see. He was a very old man. And these two are, they use this trick. It's really shameful. And it's quite interesting that Jacob was able to get away with his deceitfulness with his mother. Children learn from their parents, and it is a bit disappointing to see that how Rebecca really planned out this scheme and followed through with it, And so Jacob went in to Isaac and he approached his father, and Isaac, of course, can't see. He can only hear. He asked, who is there? And he said, I'm Esau, your firstborn. Can you believe that? Like, he even, he knew his father well. And he's like, oh yeah, your firstborn. And Isaac, of course, quickly became suspicious, because he's like, well, wait a minute. I just sent you out there recently. Like, how is it that you already got the game? You already went hunting and do all of that? And Jacob used the name of the Lord and said, oh, your God had blessed me with great success. So I was able to get, go hunting very quickly. And, it was very fruitful. And I prepared a meal, and here I am, I'll bring it to you. Like, he used God's name. Isn't that what we do sometimes? Like, we try to justify our behavior. We believe that the end justifying the means, so it doesn't matter who get injured, who get hurt in total process. If we believe that something is owed to us, if we believe that what we are doing is right, we even use the God's name in vain and said, oh, I knew from the bottom of my heart that God told me to do this, because we are trying to, get whatever we want. We want to have our own gratification. And that's what Jacob did. He tricked his own father. So Isaac said, okay, well, can you come closer? Approach me a bit. Get a little bit closer so I could feel you. Because you see, Isaac was still suspicious. Isaac still did not believe that was his son, because he's like, that's a bit faster than it should have been. And when Jacob approached his father touched his hands. And remember, the mother had already put the goat skin on his hand and as well as his smooth neck. When he touched his hand, Isaac, responded, the voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. So, when you lose one sense, the other senses kind of heighten, right? So I'm pretty sure Isaac's sense of smell heightened, and his sense of feel heightened. So he touched the son and said, okay, those arms are definitely the hands of my son, but that voice is the voice of Jacob. And once again, Isaac asked, are you really my son Esau? And once again, Jacob lied. Ooh, the deceit, the trickery. He lied. Jacob was giving the opportunity to tell the truth. He could have just said, Dad, I'm sorry. It's me, Jacob. But once again, he lied and claimed that he was Esau. He was indeed Esau. And Isaac was satisfied with the answer. And he went on, he ate the meal, then he blessed his son, thinking that he was blessing his son Esau. But really, he was blessing Jacob. And he even, in the blessing, said that the other son of his mother will be serving him, will be his servant. That he will get all the blessings from heaven. He will get all these riches. And people who are for him will also be blessed. And those who are against him, his enemies, will be punished. So it was such a great blessing. This covenant now is getting passed on to Jacob instead of Esau. The thing is, though, what's interesting about all this is we've already known from reading Genesis chapter 25 that God already told Rebekah that the elder son will serve the younger. So I can't help but wonder, why is it that Isaac didn't follow through with that? Why didn't Isaac listen? Because Isaac is a man of God, and God had already made it very clear that the younger son will serve the older, right? And I can't help but wonder, was Isaac, did Isaac believe that he can go against God, that he can do what, he can, because he favored Esau, that therefore Esau deserved that, blessing? I don't know. The text doesn't say. But I would imagine that Isaac was aware of what God had told Rebekah. I'm sure surely she must have shared that with, that message, with her husband. Or maybe Isaac just wanted his son Esau to be the one to carry on that blessing, because he favored Esau and he feels like Esau is a strong man, he's a big man, and oftentimes in the eyes of men, we truly believe that the stronger ones are the favored ones, and because they're strong in our eyes, what we believe to be strong is not necessarily what God believes to be strong, and it truly is unfortunate. It's a quite an unfortunate event that transpired here, where the father is really trying to go against God in some way. Because again, Esau was very rebellious. He did not respect God, because Esau even married 2 Hittite women. So his behavior has already shown to us, has already demonstrated to us that he is incapable of honoring this blessing, of honoring this covenant. Because not only did he marry these Hittite women, he also sold his birthright. He despised his birthright. So I'm not sure as to what's really going on in Isaac's mind, why he would think that it would be a wise idea to really go against God's will here. But here we go. The blessing has been pronounced on Jacob. And right once, Jacob leaves the room, almost as soon as Jacob left, Esau returned with the meat. And he brought the meal to his father. He brought the meal to his father, and he said, and the father said, "Who is there? Who is this?" He's like, "Father, I've returned with your meal. I've prepared this." And his father said, "Wait a minute now, who is this?" And he's like, "Esau, of course, your son." Because I'm sure Esau was a bit confused, like, why is my father asking this question? Of course it's me. You sent me to do this, and I'm here, I'm back. And Isaac trembled violently when he realized he had been deceived. He had been tricked. And he realized that, oh, my son Jacob did this. He's been tricked. He trembled violently. That means he must have been terrified. He's like, wait a minute. Like, what have I done? I've given this blessing to the wrong person. But he quickly realized that that blessing stays. It's not going to change. He said he will be blessed indeed. I wondered if Isaac could have called Jacob back and said, "What have you done? This blessing was not for you." He could have, but maybe God has spoken to his heart. I don't know, where he recognized that he was the one at fault, because he had no business giving a blessing to someone that God had already made it clear will not be getting that blessing, right? Which is so unfortunate. But Isaac, of course, realized he's been deceived. Jacob deceived him. And he had already given the greatest blessing to Jacob. Esau cried a bitter cry. He wept. He screamed. Not because he realized, like, yes, he has been wronged, he has been tricked, he had lost his blessing. But in many ways, the way he wept and screamed is because he realized that he's gonna be missing out on a lot of wealth. I don't think he was concerned about the spiritual part of it, which was very important. But it shows us that Esau did not have that understanding. That spiritual part was not even his concern. He was angry, and he's like, oh, well, that's why his name is Jacob, and now he's claiming that his brother, stole from him twice over. Remember how his brother made him sell his birthright. And all of a sudden, Esau is behaving like he's the innocent party. He's the victim here, but he's not. He truly isn't the innocent party. The reason why I say that is because, first of all, he sold his birthright for a bowl of stew. He's not even taking accountability for that. And he should. Because had he not despised his birthright, had he recognized the importance of his birthright, he would have been the one to receive this blessing. Right? But he didn't receive the blessing. Now he's bitter. He's crying. He's begging his father, please bless me as well. Surely you have more than one blessing. And his father, Isaac, blessed him. But it will appear that it was really a curse when really it's not a curse. Where the father said, indeed, you will be serving your brother. And you will be having to defend yourself. You'll be fighting with the sword. However, there will come a time when you will break that yoke. You will break that burden. So he'll be released from that chain eventually. And we learned that Esau got angry. He got envious. He got jealous. He got upset. That his brother is the one who received the blessing and it wasn't him. Jealousy will make people do a lot of things. I mean, yes, he was angry, but he became jealous of his brother because his brother got something that he felt like he deserved. Oftentimes when we see someone flourishing, we see someone doing well, or we see somebody got a blessing and we think that we deserve it. We should have been receiving it, and we became angry and jealous of them. But I will say this, the word of God does not fail. If something is for you, it will not pass you. I truly believe that. Because we can learn here, even though Jacob and his mother was deceitful, they were deceitful people. They used trickery. They thought that God needed their help. God did not need their help. God had already made it very clear in Genesis chapter 25 that Jacob is going to be the one to get that blessing. So had they left it up to God to handle this situation, we wouldn't be in this position in the first place. But they didn't. They took matter into their own hands. They felt like they knew better. They felt like, well, we know God already promised this blessing to you, so therefore we're going to do whatever we can. We're going to conjure up this plan to get you to have this blessing, when really they didn't need to do that. Because God already made it, leave it to God to handle. God already made it very clear that Jacob will be the one getting the blessing. They didn't trust God. And now we have Esau angry at his brother, so much so that he decided that he will wait for his father Isaac to die, for him to kill his brother Jacob. You see? Now we're talking about twins, and yet they are rivals, yet they are two different group of nations, two different group of people who, and there's going to be a lot of battles that come after that. And it truly is an unfortunate situation. And he takes great comfort in knowing that he will eventually kill his own brother. How sad is that for a parent where you raise your children in a way that they hate one another, so much so that one can harm the other physically? Because had Esau loved his brother Jacob, that was his twin brother, had they not spent their whole lives being each other's rivals, he could have mourned the fact that he lost the blessing and carried on. But that's not what he's doing. He hates his brother so much so that he's like, I'm just going to kill him. I'm just waiting for my dad. I'm counting the days for my father to just die. And I'm going to kill my brother Jacob. That's devastating. I cannot even imagine how the parents felt when they learned of this news, because we learned that Rebecca heard it. Rebecca learned that was Esau's plan. We don't know how she learned it, but she learned that was Esau's plan. So she called Jacob and told him to go away to her brother Laban, to hide out there for a little while, for a few days, until Esau cooled off, until Esau turned his anger and fear away and do something else. And then we see that Rebecca went to her husband Isaac and really tell him, I don't want Jacob to be here. I want Jacob to be gone. I don't want Jacob to marry anybody, any of these Hittite women, because look what's happening with the ones that Esau married. What life will I have with these women? If you now, because they think Esau, Isaac is going to die. So if Rebecca's like, what about me? What's going to happen to me if, Jacob married one of these women? So she persuaded her husband to send away their son Jacob to Laban, her brother's house. How unfortunate is that when a family doesn't stand together as one, when a family doesn't love each other, doesn't trust each other. You see, when you don't have trust in a relationship, you don't have a relationship. And it is so sad to watch what happened to these two brothers. They are blood. That's family. But because of the way that the parents handle these two children, they hate one another. They hate one another. And now the parents are suffering from the consequences. The children are dealing with it. The parents are also dealing with it. No family, is perfect. But this here, come on. It's really sad. It's heartbreaking. Because you see, Rebecca will never see her son Jacob again. We'll learn about that later on. But every single person had to pay the consequence of their action. Isaac, by choosing to favor Esau, by choosing to pass on a blessing that he himself had no power over anyway, because all blessings come from the Lord. That's not a covenant. God already made it very clear that the covenant will get passed on to Jacob and not Esau. Isaac thinking he can go against God is a big no-no. And then we see Rebecca going against her husband. See, that's what happened. The man is the head of the family. Whatever the man does, right, everyone else will follow. The wife decided to be deceitful as well, because she's following her husband's footsteps. The husband disobeyed God, the wife disobeyed the husband, and the children disobeyed the mother and the father. It's really sad. There was no trust. They went ahead and had to conjure up their own plans, doing their own thing, and every single person suffered the consequences of that. So you and I can learn so much from reading this story. It is so important for us to stop and think. I'm always going to keep on saying exactly the same thing. We have to stop and think. When God says something, he means it. We don't know why God favored Jacob over Esau. Frankly, none of them were perfect. Jacob was a deceitful person, and Esau was boastful. So really, neither one of these boys were necessarily model citizen here. Like, they were not perfect in any way. God chose who he chose, and that's all there is to it. And he favored them in the womb. Not even when they were out and in the womb, God already chose, said, okay, this is the person who's I want to carry this on. And Jacob didn't have to be deceitful, but he did. He went along with his mother's plan, and he will never see his mother again. And the mother suffered the consequence never to see her favorite son again. And Isaac, will die decades later, knowing that he had caused all this rift in his own family. That is a tragedy. Because you see, a family who stand together will always be stronger. You united we stand, divided we fall. And that applies to the family, that applies to community, that applies to nations. If we decide to stick together, we're going to be stronger. We're going to thrive. But if we divide, we're going to perish. May we be people who choose to listen to God's will so we can teach our children to follow God's commandments and not try to go against that, which is so important. And that is what I learned this week, is that we can never go against God. Whatever God says, that's what's going to take place. Isaac tried to go against God. Isaac did not. As a leader, as the head of that family, he had a responsibility to be honest and open with everyone in the family. And he failed at that. And he recognized his failure right away when, of course, Jacob tricked him and got the blessing. He did not try to backpedal. He simply said, Jacob will be blessed indeed. And we learned that, although brothers, yeah, I understand there could be rivalry, but no one should be killing one another to a point when people hate each other so much, their family. It is our job as the head of our families, fathers and the mothers, to stick together, to stay in unity so our families can be strong. So we can teach these children proper standards and proper values, God's commandments. Very important. Deceitfulness have no place in a Christian home. None whatsoever. We don't have to be perfect, but we can't be trying to deceive one another to get our own way. It's against God's will. So I hope you learned something new this week, just like I did. And please, again, remember to leave a comment, to like and share and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am praying for you this week, and I hope that you'll have a wonderful, productive week, darling. Bisous.